Hello, welcome to the Trews. I'm Russell Brand, the host. Subscribe to the Trews here by clicking here. Subscribe to it, please. Today's Trews is brought to you by the library. Go the library. David Cameron has given a speech recently saying that that we are under the worst terror alert for 3 years. Let's have a look at David Cameron's speech, see what David Cameron's saying it, why he's saying it, and if he's telling us the truth, as he surely ought to, as our leader and a person who was educated at over £1 million a second at Eton. Those are official figures.
Earlier today, the Home Secretary confirmed that the Joint Terrorism Analysis Centre has increased the threat level in the United Kingdom from substantial to severe.
Firstly, I don't think David Cameron should be allowed to stand on a podium with the Union Jack as sort of wings. like his Union Jack, man. And then you didn't see that there in the corner. Is that Brent crude? Is that like a share price for an oil company? In unrelated news, oil prices have shot through the roof. Is there any connection? No.
This is the first time in 3 years that the threat to our country has been at this level.
Shall we raise the threat level? Yeah, well, it's substantial already. Yeah, I know, I can feel that there's a substantial threat of terror. Raise it to severe. Okay. What does that mean?
My first priority as Prime Minister,
unless he goes, is to remain Prime Minister. That is definitely his first priority, isn't it? My first priority is not to stop being Prime Minister. That definitely is it. If he says anything other than that, he's lying.
Is to make sure we do everything possible to keep our people safe.
Okay, brilliant. I'm so glad, David. Everything possible to keep our people safe. You've got to put controls on energy companies because there's a massive climate change crisis going on. We've got to stop spending money on Trident because the nuclear threat is the biggest danger to humankind. Cars are killing people every day. Alcohol and cigarettes are annihilating the population of Britain. So you better be dealing with those things first. Unless, David, your real priority, as we just said, is to maintain your position as Prime Minister and serve multinational corporations. But don't come up between two Union Jack batwings and lie to us, because we're not as stupid as you think we are.
We've all been shocked and sickened by the barbaric murder of American journalist James Foley, and by the voice of what increasingly seems to have been a British terrorist recorded on that video. It was clear evidence, not that any more was needed, that this is not some foreign conflict thousands of miles from home that we can hope to ignore. The ambition to create an extremist caliphate in the heart of Iraq and Syria is a threat to our own security here in the UK.
ISIS, no doubt, is a terrible threat. My friend Matt keeps sending me terrible videos of stuff they're doing, which I won't even watch, but it says like people getting shot in ditches, people getting their heads cut off and all that kind of stuff. Brutal, 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 awful stuff, right? They're clearly terrible. But where did they come from? The US and its junior partners, that's us, destroyed Iraq, left sectarian divisions, poverty, desperation, and an illegitimate government in Baghdad that did not represent Sunnis or other groups. Then the US armed and trained ISIS and allied groups in Syria, providing Hellfire missiles with which to attack Iraqi and in Fallujah and elsewhere. We've caused this problem. Make no bones about it. When them people, those million people were marching for Stop the War, the reason they were doing that was so this didn't happen. Now this has happened. The very people and the mentality and the ideology and the same interests are telling us they need to do stuff that's like it again.
And with designs on expanding to Jordan and Lebanon, right up to the Turkish border, we could be facing a terrorist state on the shores of the Mediterranean and bordering a NATO member.
Here's a question. Why are people leaving Britain to go to, like, you're a person, they're people like you. Like, what frame of mind would I have to be in to leave my house in fucking East London and go, right, I'm going to desert to kill? I'd have to be, well, firstly, I'd have to take away my comfort, my material comforts, my sense of security, my sense of connection to the country, my sense of togetherness. All those things would have to be stripped away from me. And then I might consider it. So the fact that there are so many desperate people, so many alienated people, doesn't it clearly indicate that we have to build a more coalescent, inclusive, communicative and bonded society here in Britain? So people think, I don't want to go to Syria and chop people's heads off. I like it here. I feel included. I have values. I mean, suddenly, you know, whoever the lad was that murdered the American journalist, he went from being a disenfranchised youth in East London with no voice, with no cultural identity worth having other than one of being under constant suspicion and condemnation, to directly addressing the President of the United States. You can see why that would be appealing. We've got to make sure that people all over the world, people don't feel utterly disenfranchised and disempowered. As long as they do, then terrorism will happen. Terrorism is the nuclear bomb of the disenfranchised. So you don't want people with their finger on the button. And the more we bomb these regions, the more we disrupt them, the more we arm them, the more we create these problems for ourselves in the future. And I don't accept people that have lived in a milieu of constant cosseting and privilege, like David Cameron coming on my TV set and saying British working class people have got to go over there and die, or that there's justification for more Iraqi or Syrian people dying, or Muslim people that grew up in Britain feel so disenfranchised that they go over there and they're sort of just... What do you think? That people are like madly evil in a cackling way, that they've drunk something weird in their water? What's happening here is British, American, Western governments are using the threat of ISIS to impose terror measures on us, the domestic population. The threat of ISIS is conceptual and speculative, unless you're in Syria, when it's a real serious deal. But in London, the threat of ISIS is conceptual and abstract. The threat of David Cameron, however, if you're in London, is real. 100% real. It's him that wants to impose his way of life. It's him that wants to take away our freedoms. It's him that believes he's God's chosen people and privileged and has a right to live better than the rest of us. Him. The threat has already arrived. It isn't a threat, it's a reality.
Let's be clear about the source of the threat that we face. The terrorist threat was not created by the Iraq War 10 years ago.
It was.
This threat cannot be solved simply by dealing with the perceived grievances over Western foreign policy. Nor can it be dealt with by addressing poverty, dictatorship or instability in the region.
Yes, it can. They're all the things. It's like a direct lie. Like, make no mistake, David Cameron is a representative of big business. The people he went to school with, the people that he grew up with, the people from the communities that he's from, benefit from there being these kind of wars. The countries that Britain have economic and commercial relationships with, such as Qatar fund groups inside Syria. If the Qatari government isn't directly funding ISIS, certainly private individuals within Qatar are funding ISIS. We have economic and financial relationships with them. If really what you want is this situation to stop, you've got to go, we're not going to have a financial relationship with Qatar anymore, that's all gone crazy, they're funding groups over there. We can't blame them because we do fund groups over there ourselves as well. But anyway, it's got confusing, we're not having economic ties with them. Or Saudi Arabia. And if you are disgusted by people getting beheaded, then certainly don't have economic and military and arms-based relationships with Saudi Arabia. They chop people's heads off left and right. Saudi Arabia has beheaded 22 people since the 4th of August. Either you tell the truth or just blag us outright, but don't pretend to be outright. We were all disgusted by James Foley having his head cut off by someone who had a British accent. If it had a Saudi Arabian accent, we wouldn't have bothered even to have mentioned it.
Many of those who sought to do us harm in the past have been foreign nationals living in Britain, or even British citizens who've returned from terrorist training camps in Pakistan or elsewhere around the world. But what we're facing in Iraq now with ISIL is a greater and deeper threat to our security than we have known before.
The biggest threat to David Cameron and his allies is us, ordinary people awakening. Their biggest enemy is us. If, as he claimed, our safety was of paramount importance, climate change would be addressed, weapons industry would be addressed, health industry would be addressed. Don't trust them.
It believes in using the most brutal forms of terrorism to force people to accept a warped worldview.
We're living in a warped worldview. We're living in his worldview. We're not living in a worldview. Why don't you come out and go, we've got loads of military industrial relationships with Saudi Arabia and Qatar that prevent us from dealing with this correctly. The United States armed and trained ISIS. We've got in a terrible mess now. The situation in Israel, as you can see, is horrible. This is about the maintenance of order, the maintenance of his personal position, minor but true, and the maintenance of a social order that requires enemies. I'm not saying ISIS ain't real, but I'm saying they need ISIS.
A state in which its own citizens would suffer unimaginable brutality including barbaric beheadings of those who refuse to convert.
Like what already happens in Saudi Arabia, who we're not going to get in a row with because we can't afford to.
Islam is a religion observed peacefully and devoutly by over 1 billion people. It is a source of spiritual guidance which daily inspires millions to countless acts of kindness. Islamist extremism is a poisonous political ideology supported by a minority. These extremists, often funded by fanatics living comfortably far away from the battlefields,
like in America and Britain, they're selling arms to Qatar. Qatar are providing arms to organisations within Syria and Iraq. We're involved in this. Like his sort of delicate construction. Islam's great. I love Islam. I did a bit of Islam this morning. It's very mystical. It makes you want to hold people's hands. I love it. But then there's wicked Islam. Whoa, like Aladdin's enemy in the film Aladdin. That we don't like. Aladdin, good. Genie, good. Especially since we lost Robin Williams. But Aladdin's enemy, that Prince Jafar or whatever he was called, I hate that guy. And I'm going to bomb him.
And we must show perseverance. Not just because these building blocks take time to put in place, but because we are in the middle of a generational struggle against a poisonous and extremist ideology that I believe we'll be fighting for years and probably decades.
Yeah, we are. That poisonous and extremist ideology is called capitalism. He is one of the leaders of that poisonous and extremist ideology. Of course ISIS is dangerous. Of course something must be done. I urge you to look at David Swanson's compassionate solution, because the answer to war and terror is not war and terror under a flag. It's significant that he stands between the bat wings of the Union Jack, because that is what sanctions his poisonous ideology. Of course all of us in the West live in cosy comfort. So you've got to question, why are some people prepared to behave differently to us, make decisions that we would never make? How are their conditions different? Do you truly believe there's something different in their psychology, in their essential human nature? Or is it more likely that they are experiencing conditions different from those that we're experiencing? Do you think it's irrelevant that Britain and the United States of America have the economic relationships that they have with Saudi Arabia and Qatar? Do you think that's irrelevant in a capitalist society, where their whole doctrine and dogma is defined by economics, where even in this speech in the corner of the screen there is a constantly ticking little green digit telling you how much money people are making around the world from the very products that are being disputed, from the very tools that are used to rebuild the societies and nations once they've been destroyed by those weapons, as a result of a sort that this man, David Cameron, is currently discussing. The poisonous ideology that we need to address is elitism and the corruption in our own country before thinking about what's going on abroad. That is some truths. I do not endorse that little thing there.
Nose is a tool that is abused to fool you and to leave you scared and confused. Trews is like the nose. If the nose was true, I want some Trews. Let's have some Trews.